What's going on, guys? Matt here. So it's been a while since I've done a Spyderco review. I have wanted to pick this blade up for a while, so I'm really glad to have my hands on a Spyderco Manix 2, and this is the lightweight model. Now, we're going to talk all things Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. We're going to get into what I like, what I dislike, something unique. We'll do some specs, some size comparisons, things like that. But first, I want to give a shout out to Hayden Sawyer. Hayden Sawyer's gave me a great deal on the Everyday Blades Facebook group on this blade, so it seems like a great guy. Just want to give a shout out to him, thank him for that awesome deal he gave me, and I told him I'd give him a little plug with his Instagram, so you can find him at @SomeBroHayden on Instagram. So thanks so much, Hayden. I really appreciate the deal. So we're looking at the Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. So they have the regular Manix, and that comes in G10 and has liners. I believe they're aluminum. They could be steel, but I'm pretty sure they are aluminum. But this is the lightweight version. Obviously, it's a good bit more lightweight. So let's get into the specs real quick. So we have a 3.37 inch blade, little under 3 inch cutting surface on that. 8 inches overall, so that leaves the handle 4.66 inches. Handle is polymer. That's what Spyderco says on their site. I would guess it's some sort of FRN. That would be my guess anyway. Similar to, you know, what a lot of knives are putting, like Benchmade, using like a fiber reinforced nylon. So polymer handle. It is 3 ounces. That's right, only 3 ounces for this blade. That is pretty impressive, and we will get into that later. The blade is 0.13 inches thick at its thickest. It is CTS BD1 in steel. Let's see, what else? It uses they call it the ball bearing lock. It's a bar lock similar to, as far as I know. Well, actually, yeah, it's kind of a similar locking mechanism to the Benchmade, kind of the Axis lock. And from what I know, it's kind of similar to the I think they call this the XR lock or something. Anyway, so similar locking style to those two blades. To pick this up, you are looking at about 115 bucks, and this is made in the United States, Golden, Colorado, USA Earth. Always a kind of a fun touch that they put that there. Okay, so let's get into what I like about the Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. So first of all, it is lightweight for its size. We saw it in specs, 3 ounces. Let's take out the handy dandy, very expensive $8 Amazon scale and see what we're getting weight wise. Let's turn this thing back off and then on and see if this zeroes out. There we go. Okay, 2.93 ounces. That is impressive for a nearly 3.5 inch blade, guys. There are very few knives that hit that mark where the ounces overtake the blade length. I talk about that. My ideal weight for a knife has kind of ounces to blade length. 3 inch blade, 3 ounce knife. This is kind of hits it perfectly because it's a 3 inch blade with 3 ounce knife. But if it can go below that, great, that's awesome. Really, really lightweight blade. And I love that about this knife. I honestly didn't expect to like it that much because you guys know these handles, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but these handles can feel hollow and plasticky. This one doesn't really have that issue. Yes, it is plastic, it is lightweight, but it doesn't feel the same way that the Griptilian and the Bug Out feels. So I really love how lightweight it is. And let's move on to the handle, and I'll kind of talk about the difference between this and the Bug Out and the Griptilian. So I think my issues with the Bug Out and the Griptilian, it may not be with the handle material necessarily, because this, I believe it's probably a very similar material. It must be with the way it's constructed, because especially the Griptilian scales are rather thick, and there's just a lot of depth, empty depth, you could say, in those scales. And I think the same thing is with the Bug Out. It feels, you can honestly flex the Bug Out. You can flex this a little bit, but not quite as much as the Bug Out. It feels like there's a lot of empty depth where there is plastic and there's just nothing else, even though those do have partial liners. So I like the handle material and the way this feels. Yes, it is light. It does feel kind of plasticky, but it feels a lot better, in my opinion, to your full-size Griptilian and to your Benchmade Bug Out. So I really like the handle material with what they're doing and how they're trying to go as lightweight as possible while still giving you a full-size knife and a very comfortable handle. That is a positive note as well. This is a very comfortable handle, well-rounded, really fits my hand beautifully, can choke up on that choil really nicely. So I really like that they're going super lightweight with this polymer material without it feeling like cheap or chintzy. So I really, really like that. So I like this locking mechanism as well. Now there is an issue I have with it, and we'll get into that later, but this kind of bar style locking mechanism. So if you look in there, there is a ball bearing that I guess helps this move kind of more smoothly. Anyway, but it's like this bar kind of style locking mechanism, similar to the Axis lock on a Benchmade. I really quite like this. I think it's a very strong locking mechanism, and it allows for kind of a smooth, easy deployment. Okay, what else do I like? Like this blade style. I love a full flat ground blade at drop point. Nice slicing material. Now that this is mostly just flat, I mean, it's really just a very straight blade, so I would have preferred a little bit of belly. Something like this, Benchmade mini grip, there's a little bit more belly on this, so I do think I like this blade style a little bit more. But this full flat grind, especially with that Spidey hole opening, slice is just awesome. I was cutting an apple with it today, and I was like, man, this thing just glides through material, and you don't have a thumb plate or anything, or a thumb hole, thumb stud rather, getting in the way of that slicing. So I really, really like this. Along with that blade style, it's not terribly thin for how, the flat grind and the profile of the blades and how well it slices. So good balance on strength and kind of precision on this knife. We talked about how comfortable the handle was, but I want to mention it again. For what this is, in comparison to, let's say, the mini grip, or let's say, the Benchmade bug out, this is a much more comfortable handle, guys. Out of the box, it's very, obviously I didn't get this new. Look at this thing. It's just a very comfortable handle. Well contoured. Yes, it does have finger grooves. Not the biggest fan. That could have been kind of a more gradual sweep to it, but these index with my hand relatively well. Hopefully they do with yours, but if, like I always say, if something has pretty pronounced finger grooves like this does, get it in your hand before you buy one maybe, or buy one where you can, it's not, it's easily returnable, because they can be, they can just index wrong and it could be very uncomfortable, but very, very comfortable, very smooth handle. Smooth as in where your fingers kind of contact it, but they have this volcano texturing on this FRN style handle, and it really grips you in. That's not going anywhere. So really well done on this handle, Spyderco. I really, really like this. I also like the choil. I like the choil on the paramilitary. I mentioned that a while back. I like Spyderco's choils. I think they do a fantastic job. They don't just go half-hearted with it. A lot of companies, they say, yeah, you can use this as a choil, but look at this Terminus XR. Yeah, I mean, you can go up here kind of. I guess that's kind of a choil. But, I mean, you're kind of getting close to, if you really pressed on that, that would cut me right there. Maybe if you had really thin hands, it wouldn't. But this is a dedicated choil. Yes, you lose a little cutting edge, but boy, can you choke up on that thing very comfortably, very safely. I like the jimping a lot as well on a lot of Spydercos. It's just the way these designs are, these kind of leaf-shaped designs, and the way the hole works, yes, it does create, and I'll talk about this and what I don't like, it creates a big imprint in your pocket, but it just leaves room for great jimping. It really locks you in. Great traction on this Manix lightweight. Last thing I want to mention about what I like is the wire clip. This is a fantastic clip. It carries a little bit high, but I'm not going to say that's something I don't like, because it's not terribly high. There are knives that carry a lot higher than this that I've given a pass. I love how low profile and easy, just kind of easy to use this clip is. A lot of clips, there's just too much to them. Like a clip like this, it's deep carry and it's nice, but I mean, this is just a lot right here, right? It's very flashy, which is okay. I like a knife to be flashy sometimes if I'm carrying a cold steel Espada, right? But sometimes you want something low profile, not super noticeable. And so I really, really like this wire clip quite a bit. I think it might be my favorite Spyderco clip that I've used before. Okay, so let's get into what I don't like. So I mentioned it just a second ago, so I will mention it here. That's quite a large imprint in your pocket. Compare it to a knife of the same size, Case Kenzua. I mean, you just look at the difference in imprint and pocket. Obviously, that's not going to slice nearly as well. They're different knives, different blades. They kind of serve different functions, but still, it's quite an imprint. Same thing with this. It's a little bit smaller, but serves a similar function, kind of a smaller tactical folder. Again, a lot smaller of an imprint in your pocket. So don't love how large the imprint in your pocket is. Most Spydercos have that issue, so it's not anything unique. I think that my biggest dislike of this knife is the price. So the price isn't horrible. It's $115 for a blade that's made in the United States of high quality materials. That's not far off at all. Some say that could be good. The issue is we're getting CTS BD1 in steel, which isn't a bad steel, but I haven't used it a whole lot. But from what I've heard, it's in the same level of kind of VG10, AUS10, 14C28N, maybe a little bit more higher quality than 14C28N, but it's not a higher end powdered metallurgy steel. I believe it's not powder. No, it's not powder metallurgy. But it's not higher end powder metallurgy steel. What I want to bring up is a knife that I raved about the price and the qualities, and that's the Case Kandua again. So we're getting S35 powdered metallurgy, high quality handle material. This is aluminum, good fit and finish, well made. This is the same price as this. If I was choosing between the two, now these are very different knives, very slicey, very lightweight. This is still not a very heavy knife, not that far off in weight, and it's the same in price. If I were choosing between these two, I'd choose this guy. You guys might be different. You guys might be like, I want that lightweight, I want the thin profile. I get that, and you might like, this more slicey blade, but you're just not getting as much bang for your buck. And that's something I've noticed recently with a lot of Spydercos. Now, Benchmade has always kind of had this issue. They called it like the butterfly tax or whatever. They just said, this is a little bit overpriced for how much it's worth. Because, this goes for about 100, 110, 15 bucks, about the same price. But again, this versus this, we're getting S30V here. This has full liners. They're lightweight, still a lightweight blade. This feels a little more solid in hand. The locking mechanism is a lot smoother, in my opinion, than that ball bearing lock that they have. So I'm just going to say it, guys. A lot of these Spydercos, they're overpriced. Spyderco, I love you guys. I think you're a fantastic company. But when you're putting out a blade for 60, 70 bucks and it has 8CR13 and it's produced in China, I just don't think that's a good bang for your buck. Same thing with this thing. Yes, it's the United States made, but I think it is a little bit overpriced. I'd like to see this around, let's say, 80 bucks. I think that would be completely fair. For a blade like this. So that is one of the things I don't like. That's probably the biggest thing I don't like about this blade. So, all right. The other thing, kind of the only other thing I don't like about this blade, I do like this locking mechanism. Now, there's a couple things about it that I don't like, and I'm going to talk about them. So firstly, I think that this, you can see this spring right here. It's very stout, which a lot of people quite like because they like that it's not going to break like the Omega springs on these Benchmades. These Omega springs, I have broken them numerous times. Of course, Benchmade will fix it for free. You just send it in, no big deal. But a knife spring shouldn't break that often, right? Spyderco, I think, mitigated that. They're like, we're going to give you a tough spring. Now, along with that, that takes a lot more force. You can kind of see my finger right there to disengage that spring. Maybe this hasn't been used much, but I have a feeling it's just a more stout spring. Along with that, too, I don't like that these are plastic. On this model, I can give, it more of a pass versus the full model, which is G10 scaled and kind of has a more sturdy feel to it. But I don't like that these are plastic. And I also don't love, I think that these should be textured a tiny bit more, maybe that flare up a tiny bit more, because I really have to, sometimes my hands slip on this thing. It just doesn't have enough grip to it. It's not as big of a deal because that's when, the important thing is when you're deploying it. Obviously, this is, very easy to deploy. But when you're just disengaging that lock, I just would have liked a little bit more texturing or a little bit more flare up there at the end so that my hands grabbed that a little bit easier. Okay. That is all I don't like about the knife. I really think it's a fantastic knife. It really has set a standard for weight, in my opinion. You have knives like the 940, which are about 3 ounces and 3.5 inches as well. So that's in the same realm as this. But more slicing capability, just a more let's say a more full feeling knife in your hand. So this really has set a standard for weight. Would I recommend it? Yes, I'm going to recommend it, even though I still think it's too expensive. Just overall what you're getting for this price, I think I'm still okay with it. even though I still think it is a negative to the overall knife. I love this knife. I think it's going to be a fantastic running knife for me. Very lightweight. I can kind of stick it in my waistband and you just won't notice it. So anything where weight is very important to you, definitely give this knife a look. Hold it in your hand, see if you like the feel of it. It does not feel as cheap and as kind of hollow as the Griptilian or the Bug Out. So I do recommend it, even though it is a little expensive. The positives outweigh the negatives in my opinion. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.